And good morning, and thanks for joining us for this special edition of Fox 26 Morning News Extra. I'm Natalie Bomke. We've just celebrated another birthday honoring this great nation. We have a lot to be proud of in this country, including the greatest fighting force in history. But they are dying in record numbers. And I'm not talking about on the battlefield, but rather by their own hands. A recently released report out of the Department of Veterans Affairs found on average about 22 veterans a day committed suicide in 2010. It is an American tragedy that remains underreported. We start this broadcast with the story of a Houston Air Force veteran, Stephen Otero. The enemy he faced when he returned home from the field of battle was post-traumatic stress disorder. His story is one of perseverance and love. It will give you a glimpse into why so many veterans are taking their own lives.
You ready?
For the Otero family, this is the American dream, a dream possible in part by Stephen's 11 years of service with the U.S. Air Force.
I joined the military. I think like most other young men, I was kind of torn, what was going to be the next step for me as, at 17, 18 years old. Not really sure if college was going to be, the path that I wanted to pursue. And, but I knew that I needed to do something to take the next step in life and, start trying to grow up a bit. And the military ended up being just exactly what I needed.
Stephen would soon find that his loving wife, Sarah, was also exactly what he needed to win the battle of his life. The couple was married less than a week before Stephen's first deployment to Iraq. Their twins, a constant reminder of how far they've come.
I was worried that if I died over there that I wouldn't leave her with anything. And it was time anyway, and it just so happened that chain of events kind of went down the way it did, but it was time. After 5 years, it was time.
In Iraq, Stephen was part of a team that responded to improvised explosive devices, approaching the devices on the ground and analyzing their makeup. The intensity of the job was unlike anything he had ever experienced before.
The first deployment was the reality of war. I felt so attached to the adrenaline dumps that I would get every time I'd put my kit on and we'd get a call. And we were on call 24 hours a day the entire time we were there. When I came home, I was searching for that feeling again. I was searching for that feeling of this is about to happen, this is what you have to do, and then this is how things are going to play out. And I couldn't find anything at home that delivered the level of intensity or adrenaline that hopping into the back of a combat vehicle brings to a person.
After the first deployment, there was a whole new element there that we had to learn to balance. He changed, a lot from before he went to Iraq to when he came home, and I didn't know what to expect, and I wasn't sure how to help him.
6 months overseas and Stephen was back home, but in his mind, he never left the battlefield. He longed for another opportunity to return to combat.
Really, it was, it was overwhelming. You have one person that, I felt like he was a new person. So I didn't know how to play off his mood swings. I didn't know how to react, if I should be quiet or if I should, get him to talk to me about what was going on, if I should just give him space. I didn't know what he needed. And I tried a lot of different things, and some things worked and some things didn't, and it was scary.
There was physical pain related to Stephen's mood swings, the repeated vibrations from rocket-propelled grenades landing near his unit, and the detonation of IEDs wore on Stephen's body and mind. The results were sleepless nights, aggression, anxiety around large crowds, pain, and isolation.
In my opinion, the only help I got was, going with him to his appointment, really. It wasn't until things became much more severe after Afghanistan that they also offered me maybe I should go talk to a psychologist, but it sort of helped, but it really didn't, because the psychologist they sent me to didn't have any expertise in the area, so she didn't really know how to guide me on how to help him.
During his second deployment, Stephen saw the war effort from a new perspective, now operating as a combat photographer. But what he viewed as therapy, returning to the world he was trained to be a part of, ultimately did not take away the pain.
I had this idea in my head that if I could just get back over there, that everything would be okay. And so I worked really hard to try and be ready, just ready enough to go ahead and, throw my kit back on and grab my helmet and get back out the door. And I felt like I needed it. I needed that to move forward, was just let me go back to war again, different area of operation, but hopefully that would help me renormalize again. And it did. As soon as I hit the ground in Afghanistan, I felt like $1 million, and yet again, I was so ready and eager to be out there, but I just couldn't turn it off when I came back home. And when I came back home from Afghanistan, I was all smiles and hugs initially, but really, even the very first 2 or 3 days back from Afghanistan, I was freaked out in my house and was on the phone trying to call doctors to say, hey, I know something is not right already.
Military doctors prescribed Stephen 11 different medications. He was taking up to 30 pills a day. There were sleep aids, antidepressants, mood depressors, and pain management pills. He was left drifting in and out of reality, unable to live what he believed to be a meaningful life.
Lost. How do I help? What do I do? Sad, because I loved him so much, and for him to not love himself at that point it hurt. And so I just try to show him how good he really had it, try to talk to him about it, try to explain that to him. Of course, the level of medication he was on, I didn't really get that. There wasn't, sometimes the level of medications he was on, there wasn't much there. He was kind of a zombie. And so my opinion on that part was that it wasn't helping.
The more I learned about suicide and how psychologists and psychiatrists, view it, the more I realized just how close I actually was, to doing it. Because I was in this rehearsal stage and practicing, and I had drawn out and diagrammed the room that I was going to do it in and how specifically I was going to do it, the time of day that I wanted to do it. And there was a key piece in there that I hadn't figured out, and I guess it's a very good thing that I hadn't figured it out yet. It was, how do I do this and successfully take my own life without having my wife find my body? And it was really literally during that time frame of me attempting to answer that question for myself, a civilian friend of mine had popped in and was able to stop me.
The gravity of the situation finally sunk in, and Stephen came up with a plan. He quit his prescribed medications cold turkey. A surgery to curb his physical pain helped him manage his sleep and depression.
I think the military did a decent job of helping me identify what was going on. Absolutely. But the military trains us to go to war, but they don't really train us to come home. And that is something that, hopefully hopefully is getting, better. And it seems to be.
No, he'll never go back to who he was before. Though his experiences have changed just like anyone, your experiences in life change who you are. And you learn from them and you grow from them, and every day, it'll never go away, but every day, he deals with it, and he finds a way to help it enhance who he is now, and tries to find ways to help other people too that are going through the same thing.
And unfortunately, it's not difficult to find people who are going through the same thing. As I mentioned earlier, 22 veterans a day in 2010 committed suicide. And that number is probably higher since only 21 states officially report veteran suicides to the VA. Texas, which has a large military population, is among the states that don't report suicides.
Most of the action here at the Royal Purple Raceway happens on the weekends, but you can't get the grand tour with all the crowd here. So we've got Seth Angel, the general manager, and we're going to give you a behind-the-scenes look. Gentlemen, start your engines.
It's a rush. So every Friday night, anyone can come out and street race their car.
Sometimes it's better than sex.
From the starting line to the finish line, the track is one of the fastest quarter miles you'll find. It's coated with a super sticky substance on race day that will literally peel your tennis shoes right off if you dare set foot on the track.
There's these red infrared beams that shoot across here that make sure that both cars in each lanes are aligned at the same point on the racetrack. It's connected to this tree here, and then the tree activates and goes from yellow to green. This is half the track, 660 feet we just crossed, and the finish line is here with the scoreboards.
Got it.
And then we're done.
I bet the cows over there get quite a show, huh?
This year, the raceway turns 33 years old, and the legal street racing program has accelerated its popularity.
It's far too often that we see on TV, on the news reports of a street racing accident where someone has lost their life, and of course that is very sad to us. And you know, as I said, there's a time and a place, and that is here on Friday nights.
I mean, it's just a bunch of people gathering with one common interest. I mean, you make friends from all over the state.
A lot of females are really into drag racing, just racing, you know, period. From anything from Camaros to Hondas to Mustangs. It's a plethora of cars that they come out here and ride.
I don't know if I've seen a news van, but I've seen an 18-wheeler tractor trailer. I've seen 2 school buses race down the track. I've seen a lot of things go down the track, but I haven't seen a news van, so maybe we can make that happen today.
Sue, do you have the keys? You've got the keys? Let's make it happen.
The aerodynamics on this thing are terrible. We'll see you at the racetrack. Our Hometown Friday takes place in the 4th Ward, and historically life there was marked by church gatherings. It has been home to a handful of groundbreaking pastors and congregations, some of which have since relocated. We have a look back, though, at the power of the cross in the community.
Me right there.
Miss Myrtle Ross stands in what was once BB Tabernacle Methodist Church in Houston's 4th Ward. Today, the historic brick building stands as a private residence. But then, more than 30 years ago, it was where life began and ended for so many.
In 1979, we did the 100 years. And this was the front steps. I got pictures of the children on this front step.
Miss Ross describes the community before its African-American residents were allowed to move throughout the city.
4th Ward was the only place that black people could stay when they came to Houston. You see, this street here, West Dallas, it used to be another street that ran out to River Oaks, so they changed the name to West Dallas because they didn't want it associated with River Oaks.
Miss Ross raised her 3 children with her late husband in this small shotgun home, still standing but in disrepair.
Everybody moved out because they wanted something better. And nobody, the ones that owned the property, didn't want to sell it to you. They just wanted to rent it to you. And so you got tired of renting and moved out to buy you something. But we all came back to our church.
And then I built it.